Hey, friends, it's 2023. This is the first podcast of 2023, which I'm Mike Davis, which makes it, I think, kind of apropos that it worked out for Sadie Hartmann to be our guest today. So, hi, Sadie.
Hello.
Because, Sadie does a lot of what I do and some things I don't, does a lot of promoting of horror authors and
except like she's respected.
right.
Yeah. Well read. Yeah.
I thought John was going to say that, but
I was waiting. I was
you.
waiting for the right moment. But Matt, I'm glad Matt just
She
plunged
does
right
what
in.
I do,
Yeah.
only she's actually good at it, so
People pay attention to her. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
welcome to the show.
Yes. Welcome to Let's Make Fun of Mike, the first episode of 2023. So why don't we do introductions like we always do for the benefit of those who are listening later. What happens, Sadie, is that we air this every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, which would be 3 p.m. your time, and then the next day, typically, I turn it into a regular audio podcast. So it goes out on Spotify and iTunes and all those, all those places, pretty much everywhere. I think that wherever people want to use their favorite podcast app. So I'll send you an email tomorrow when everything's out, so you can tweet about it if you feel like it. So,
Great, thank you.
yeah. And I've always said that, all kidding aside, I like to have guests on the show. That if someone's on the show, it's because I think they're doing something pretty cool, and I think more people should know about it. I appreciate people who promote horror authors and horror creators, and so I've been wanting to get you on for a while.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate that.
yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Well, let's do introductions. Matt, you got a prize, so let's start with you.
Hi there. I'm Matt. I run the Lovecraft e-zine movie night. We just watched Glorious last night, a really good cosmic horror film.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Our book today is an old 1984-85 paperback of Thinner by Stephen King. Kind of beat up, but I think it's the first printing.
Hey, I said my New Year's resolution was that I'm going to get thinner. You don't need to rub it in my face.
To win this prize, or enter anyways, send an email to easyprizes@gmail.com and put Thinner in the subject heading. We draw a winner in about 6 weeks, and who knows, it might be you.
Rick Lay.
Rick Lay, writer and pulp magazine collector.
Bridget Brynmart.
I am Bridget. I'm a musician, artist type. I'm a little nasally today, so.
I hear you. Had a monster flu since Monday, which I know Langen's aching to make fun of my long hair. I was going to get it cut this week. So.
You filthy hippie.
I know. Sign said long-haired hippie people need not apply. So, John Lingen.
Speaking of long hair, I mean, hi, I'm John Langen. Latest book is Corpse Mouth and Other Autobiographies, a collection of stories. I show up here on an occasional basis to make fun of Mike Davis and keep him in line.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mike DeBronzo is next, and he was telling me that I haven't started this book yet, Dark Stars, edited by John F.D. Taft, T-A-F-F, and he said that your story was a real standout.
Yeah,
right, Mike?
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So I'm starting with that one. Actually,
I thought you were going to say I'm so I ripped it out and threw it.
Yeah, exactly. DeBronzo, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Mike DeBronzo, architect, artist. I pick movies for Pete Rolfe to watch, and strangely, he does.
Did we get everybody? I think we did. Everybody except Sadie, our guest. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Sadie, for those out there who don't know you?
Sure. My name is Sadie Hartmann, otherwise known as Mother Horror on social media. I am a bookstagrammer, which means I have a dedicated book account on Instagram, primarily to promote and showcase horror fiction. You can find me also on Twitter, although I'm not there as much these days. I've kind of made a New Year's resolution to focus more on reading and less on social media, which can be a huge time suck for me. I could all of a sudden find myself in some Reddit threads and TikTok videos, and it just is taking away from focusing on the reading. So this year I've already cleared 7 books.
Nice.
I
It's a book
want
a
to
day,
get,
basically.
yeah, I mean, some of them are really short. Like I'm reading an Amazon original series called the Trespass series, which has like Sylvia Moreno Garcia and Stephen Graham Jones. And I just want to like dive headlong into my books again, because last year was distracted writing my own book, which I have a book coming out in August called 101 Horror Books to Read Before You're Murdered.
Yeah,
So,
I wanted to ask you about that. So why don't we start with that?
sure.
Tell us about it.
An editor at Page Street Books, which is distributed by Macmillan, sent me an email last summer asking if I would be interested in writing that book. And I don't write books, for those of you who know. I review them, I read them and review them, but I don't write them. I do write reviews for lots of platforms, Scream Magazine, Cemetery Dance, Lit Reactor, the lineup. But I had never tackled something that big before. So I accepted her offer and spent the last 7 or 8 months making sure that I was caught up on modern horror. I didn't want to do, like a list of books from all time, because that seemed so daunting to me. And then people have access to that on the internet. Like if you Google 100 horror books, you're going to find that there's plenty of lists out there that have like the whole gamut of horror, from like Shirley Jackson to Stephen King and all of that. So I really wanted to focus on modern horror. So my list is anything from 2000 to now,
Okay.
essentially. Yeah. So I made sure that I had read some books that I had, were on my list or that I had purchased and hadn't got into yet. So last year, I didn't focus as much on 2021 titles as I wanted to, because I was busy reading for my book.
Yeah, and that's quite a lot of books. I mean, it's almost a quarter of a century now. So
Yeah, it was a lot to cover.
When's the book come out?
August 8th of this year.
Okay, and I assume it'll be available in print and Kindle.
Yeah, it'll be available everywhere books are sold. It's distributed through Macmillan, so I'm hoping that it's going to have like a widespread distribution. And it's also, there's no repeat authors, so it's 101 different authors. I did some horror spotlights on 10 different authors that I felt had such like a large body of work that I kind of wanted to cover more than just one title from them. It's also fully illustrated. So we have an illustrator that did some really great graphics at the beginning of every chapter, and the cover is really great. I've seen some teasers, and it's so hard not to like share those and talk about them, but it's really a lot of fun.
The thing is, you can trust us. We wouldn't tell anybody.
I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about it, but it really has a cool retro vibe, and the illustrator is phenomenal. He's a comic book artist. I don't even know if I'm allowed to share the name, because there's literally been like no details about this book so far that I've been allowed to talk about. So,
well, the book being illustrated, that's a nice point of difference. That'll be great.
Yeah, I like illustrated books. Like as a reader, I just love opening a book and seeing like a map in the beginning, or just little details at the beginning of every chapter. So I asked if that could be a part of it. I also asked if we could have some guest writers contribute to the book. So there's 5 essays from horror authors that I felt would lend a good voice to the book. But it was a really difficult task. I have to let you guys know, like, to narrow it down to 101. I had to advocate for myself in various different things. I had to like get in a Zoom meeting with my editors and be like, please let me do short story collections, please. Because there are certain like authors, you know, who are like just putting out a large volume of short stories. And I feel like the short story fiction format is so conducive to horror. Like the vibe of horror can be maintained throughout this like tiny section of writing. So they did allow it. So there are short story collections on there as well.
That's great. I know you can't get into who the authors are at this point, or the books are, excuse me, but what are some of the things, what's some of the criteria that was important to you personally when you were going through your mental lists and deciding what would stay and what would not stay on the list?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, if you Google horror books that you have to read or that are very important, there's a lot of repeats. I mean, like Stephen King will get 20 hits in one list, and I think that's an unfair advantage, obviously. So to be perfectly honest with you, there are no Stephen King titles on my list, but the entire book is dedicated to him because he is who got me into this genre in the first place. I started reading him when I was 13. So his fingerprints are throughout this book. I reference him quite a bit. But also criteria wise, I felt like I wanted it to be accessible for people who are brand new to the genre, as well as seasoned horror readers. So I made sure that there were books on there that I felt weren't so totally niche, but that I also didn't want to ignore titles that are really indie and hard to find. So I made sure that I covered the full spectrum that horror has to offer in terms of diversity, in terms of indie versus traditionally published, in terms of women and men and everything in between, and people of color. And I just wanted to make sure that someone new to the genre could step in and realize that there was a lot that horror has to offer. I broke it down by subgenres. I broke it down by, like little things that readers look for. Like, is this book haunted house, but also psychological? Like, I made lots of recommendations in the sidebar. If I'm starting to talk about haunted house and I only feature like 5 books, I made sure that there's like, here's some more if you're still interested.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Kind of like an honorable mention type thing.
Yeah.
Well, on the Stephen King thing, I think that's a great decision because we all know who he is. He's inspired so many people. Looks like you said, you dedicated the book to him. But, even if you only got one slot, that's a slot that maybe someone else could use a lot better than he could.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes.
It comes out in August, you said?
Yeah, August 8th.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Anything else you can tell that you're allowed to tell us about it? Probably not.
I mean,
can you just go through the whole list, or I'm kidding.
I did ask about like, well, what will happen, because Page Street is fairly new to this kind of book. Page Street Books primarily focuses on children's books and like niche market hobbies and activities. So they do a lot of cookbooks, they do like knitting books, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of their junior editors had been following me on social media for quite some time. Like, I've been on Bookstagram for 7 years. So she's been following me there. And she told, her board meeting about pitching this book, like, we need to broaden our horizon in terms of hobbyists. Like, maybe there's people out there who are just focused on one genre, and that's a hobby. Also, book buying is kind of a hobby. I mean, I just am building a fucking library. I don't intend on reading all this shit, like, I just want them. Like, I binge bought a bunch of John Langan's books from Word Horde. I have like all of his collections. But it's going to take some time to get through.
He has no intention of reading them. That's what he's trying
Well, yeah,
to say.
those are going to sit on my
I wonder why your
shelf for
name came
years.
up after
it's
that.
just like
No, I'm
the
a
art,
John
the cover art is beautiful. That's the Matthew Jaffe.
That's why I buy it, not
that's
because
right.
of John. No, but I did get the opportunity to meet John last year, which was like a highlight of my entire life. I'm a huge John Lincoln fan.
Mine too.
You're the best, John.
No, that's you, Sadie. I'm just the second best.
Well, let's be clear here. It's pretty much established that reading books and buying books are two totally separate activities.
Yes,
Mm.
100%.
They have very little actually to do with one another.
Well, so I was feeling a little bit guilty about the fact that I was going to bookstores and buying books and not really reading them. So in 2023, I joined this challenge that was circulating on Bookstagram called 23 and 23, where we picked 23 books off of our shelves and we have set them aside. Find her right here. And I'm going to read those books this year, like no holds barred. Like I'm not going to fudge on these titles. Like I bought this book and I saw so many people reading it and recommending
5
it.
Decembers.
Yeah, and I'm dying to read this book, but why is it just fucking sitting here? Like
Because our TBRs are so big.
Yeah, and then also I bought all of Christopher Buehlman's books. I read
great.
Between Two
he's
Fires.
fabulous.
You guys, after I read Between Two Fires, I like melted into the fetal position and just my finger was like clicking buy now button on just buying everything he ever bought
That
or
book
ever
is
read.
that book is great.
It
is
is.
so
It is.
entertaining.
That's a legitimately great novel.
Yeah, I don't know what that guy's deal is. He's like he did the Crossroads, sold his soul to the devil type of thing to write books, but
Not
Worse,
only
he
write,
worked. I think he worked in a Renaissance fair.
Yeah,
not
he's-
only writes them, but he narrates them on Audible. He does a wonderful job.
he does a wonderful job. He was like in the Renaissance Festival. He's like a professional insulter or something.
That
Like-
sounds right for Christopher. Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool. So my book cart is full of all the books that I'm intending to read. On top of, I've recently become my Kindle has become my best friend. Like I don't have real best friends aside from my husband. So
You don't need that negativity in your life.
my Kindle is my best friend. And Kindle Unlimited is the bee's knees. Like if you're
Oh,
a
yeah.
horror fan and you just want to sit on your Kindle and saturate yourself with like shorties, they have all these lines of short story collections and you can just boom, 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 which is what I've been doing. So
All kinds of books really on Kindle Unlimited. So
yeah.
and what you
great.
said about buying books, there's something to be said about having a library. And if you're in the mood for something and
Yeah.
you bought it 4 years ago and you're like, no, I know I have that in my library. I'm in the mood to read it now. So
Well, and some of the issues, particularly for us, is that the stuff that we're looking at is small press.
Hmm.
So there's a good chance that when we're finally in the mood to read that book, it might not be available anymore.
yeah.
So then you're paying aftermarket prices, like for Mr. Gaunt.
No, that's available from Word Horde Press at a
Available
very
now.
affordable rate.
It is
Yeah.
available now.
Now it is.
After some of us had got it, but that's fine. I don't care.
Well,
I do think though there's a point like I'm trying to think about the right way because of course I have as with everybody I have too many books, right? But I also think to myself
you don't have too many books.
I have not enough time.
You have enough time.
I have a day job. That's the problem. But I do kind of think that there's like the other side of it is that there's a kind of an economic thing going on, right? Where if I buy somebody's book now, even if I'm not going to read it for years potentially, right? It's a sale that's money in their pocket right now.
yes,
And
you're
that's
supporting
helping
them.
that's helping also the those sales are helping them, helping the profile of their book. And so I'm not trying to say, you know, oh, it's all altruism, but I am saying that there's, you know, buying the book now, even if you're like, oh my God, but I'm never going to read it, or I'm not going to read it for a while, that's fine. I think there are other good things that come because of that.
I totally agree with you. Stephen
Okay,
Graham
wait,
Jones.
would you
Oh,
please
sorry.
explain this to my wife?
I knew that was coming.
You have to like,
Mine.
so you just have to, your partner has to realize that you could be spending your money on worse things.
Drugs.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped dyeing my hair and going to the salon, and I just spend that money on books.
I stopped doing heroin and cocaine. You know,
See, it's like there's other things.
oxycodone.
Well, I was going to say to John's point.
I've been saying I've been saving this money for a divorce if ever I get a husband.
Oh my God.
Is that what she said?
That's from It's a Wonderful Life. God.
Sorry that you have to put up with him, Sadie.
It's okay. I'll live. Stephen Graham Jones has a comic book series called Earth Divers. And I think it's really important. I mean, they're like, what, $3 a pop or something, but I think it's really important to support avenues like that authors are trying, just to make sure that the market sees that there's a need for that as well. Like, they're great. It takes like 4 minutes to read when you buy them. So it's like an instant gratification, but it's cool to have those sleeves in your collection with, you know, all your Stephen Graham Jones books. And I feel like it tells the market that there's crossover audience. You know, I feel bad in certain regard that like somebody like Chuck Wendig, who wrote all these Star Wars books, that fan base doesn't cross over to his horror, which is weird, and vice versa. So I think it's important that if you're a Stephen Graham Jones fan, you love his work, I feel like it's not an obligation, but I feel like if you're going to cross over into comic books, like his fan base should kind of support that. That's just kind of how I feel.
Oh, I agree. And my rule has always been with book buying. So if I think I'm going to read this anytime in the next seriously decade, and you know I'm getting a good price on it because you know I don't make a lot of money, but I'm going to get it because I want to build that library, you know, and I want it to be there when I am in the mood to read it. So and that goes for Kindle and print. So especially Kindle, when every day I get this, these are the books on sale today. You know, I don't know if you get that email.
Yeah, I do.
$1.99 or $2.99. And a lot of times there's nothing that piques my interest, but a lot of times there is something. And it's like, this is an easy decision to make. It's $2, it's $3, you know?
Yeah, it's a useful tool. And like my volume for Kindle, like I couldn't keep up with the Joneses by trying. I love physical books. That'll always be my first choice.
Right.
But there's no way I would have the amount of what I have if I had to go out and buy them.
Yeah.
So at least I'm getting to read that author, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, who has the space for that too?
Yeah.
My wife's talking about having us buy a new house because I need more space for the book.
For your books.
Really? Yeah. And she's not having the conversation she is with that Matt's wife is with him, that just get rid of the books. We're not buying a new house.
No. Or
does she want just a separate house for you?
Yes.
And your books?
For varying definitions of house.
Yeah, there are very definite.
Shed.
He's now out in the shed. Yes.
Yeah, the shed might be. Yeah.
You better reinforce that shed if you're going to put books in there. Those Florida winters get cold, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not the temperature I'm worried about. It's the humidity.
Yeah. And the hurricanes.
And it's not the heat, it's the stupidity.
Excuse me.
I just wanted to mention that the other good thing about Kindle is you can buy pretty cheap omnibus collections.
Yes.
Authors. And it's you can buy like 30 books. There's somebody like Eighth Rider Haggard or whoever. We spent a lot of money collecting before the internet age.
Yeah.
But now you have them all together.
A couple have come through on the Archie McNally series, which I've been reading for decades, but now always makes me think of Pete. Since Archie McNally is right in your backyard, Pete. Lawrence Sanders,
Yeah,
detective.
he's been dead for a long time.
Yeah, no, but he did write books before he died.
Yes, he did.
But yeah, and it was like $1.99 for a 4-pack. They had several 4-packs, you know. So yeah, the other thing about I will agree with Sadie, you and DeBronzo and everyone else that I love my physical library a lot. It's just something about being in a house, in a room, and you're surrounded by books. At the same time,
Yeah.
Kindle has strengths too. I love being able to search, especially for nonfiction books. You know, where did I see that phrase? I love being able to highlight and see all my highlights at once.
It's
So,
a great tool.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. So anyway, so the name of your book is, it's a great title, 101 Horror Books to Read Before You're Murdered.
Yes.
So, so that's great.
And it's not, I should say with a caveat, it's not like one of those definitive lists where it's just like based on any kind of like critical praise for these books or whatever. It's really just my opinions. It's just a reader fan girl talking about horror and the horror that I've enjoyed over the years. Like I've read everything on there. I feel like a lot of lists, excuse me, I have to mute myself.
No problem. Looks like you got a little bit of what's going around, maybe.
I mean, when you say what's going around, there's like what 4 or 5 things now. So
I've just, this past week has been terrible. I've just only in the yesterday and today have I started to feel halfway alive, and I'm probably going to go back to bed right after this. So yeah.
Sorry.
No, no,
Do you ever
you're
feel
fine.
like you like swallowed dust or something?
Oh, sure.
I felt like I swallowed dust. Yeah, so I was gonna say it's some of the lists that you find on the internet. I don't feel like people read everything on there because they're just like a plot. They'll like just say here's a sentence of a plot of the plot. There's no like reader experience. So when I wrote up a description for every book, it's very thin on plot and very heavy on my reading experience of that book.
Oh, I love that, Sadie. One of my biggest pet peeves is people review a book on Amazon or elsewhere, and what they do is they basically give a snapshot of the plot, or they give a synopsis. Hey, I've
Right.
already got the synopsis.
Yeah,
Man.
right. Which you can
You
look
know,
at, right? Yeah.
I need your thoughts, spoiler free, on whether I should buy this book or not, and why.
Yeah, and my main priority is not to dissuade people from reading the book. Like if I didn't really have that great of a good time with a book, I still like to talk about like reading comps, like books that are similar in vibe, and just like, you know, the general aesthetic of the book. That way people can decide for themselves if they want to read it. Because one of my biggest pet peeves, especially see this on Bookstagram, is somebody will say, I hated this book. It was horrible. Like it was the worst book I ever read. And everyone in the comments will be like, oh man, that was on my TBR. Now I guess I'm not going to read it. I'm going to bump it down. And I'm like, why? Just because this person didn't like it doesn't mean you're not going to like it. So I try to frame my reviews in a way that's like, hey, this bogged down in the middle for me, or I lost interest. It was like a 3-star book for me, but I think that people who enjoy this particular aspect or this plot detail or an unreliable narrator or blah, 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 might find an interest in it.
Yeah, you're recognizing that all reviews are subjective. You know, no matter how well thought out they are, they ultimately are subjective, whether they're really well thought out, like what you're talking about, or I hated it. Okay, at least say why, you know, spoiler free.
Yeah, and you know, you're not gonna, no book is universally loved as much as we love certain books and think people are nuts who don't enjoy them, there's people who like books that I hated. So it's, yeah, like you said, so subjective.
Are you familiar with Kim Newman's 100 Best Horror Books?
No, actually.
Okay. So I think it came out in the 80s. It's called Horror, the 100 Best Books. It's by Kim Newman with comments, I think, from Stephen Jones and Ramsey Campbell. And then, like, I think 10 years later, they came out with Horror, another 100 Best Books. And that was Jones and Newman again. And
okay.
It's very, but now this is 30 years ago. So it might be time to reevaluate everything.
Yeah. The other thing I will say is it's such a great title, but in addition to that, regarding the title, and I'm not putting down anyone who uses the word best in, in an article or a book title or anything, but it's really not ever the best, is it? And even people like that I am good friends with and admire, that we're all good friends with and admire, Helen Datlow, uses that, in her, the best horror of the year. Even she'll say, well, it's not the best. That's what I think are the best.
Do you remember Carl Edward Wagner? Did he die in like the mid-90s? He was very famous for not liking conventional or famous horror books. He has like a 3 sets of 13 what he thinks are the best novels that he had written and read and given horror categories. And he realized that some of them other people weren't going to like, but they were unusual or striking to him. So that's just another person who's put up his experience, but nothing so detailed as the book that you're going to list.
Yeah.
So I'll just share that list here so you all can look at it if you want.
Yeah, we chose the title 101 Horror Books to Read Before You're Murdered because it was going to be before you die, but that could be a long time. So we wanted people to know that you could be murdered like tomorrow. So you might as well like get these horror books like underway. And
well, it's sketchy too.
Oh, it's just like you could die really soon. So let's get this on. And then also, to speak to that best of, I already know, being a reviewer, when I review books, there's people who have something to say about that. Like Goodreads is not nice sometimes. So they'll get in your comments and tell you why you suck. So I'm ready for my book to be hotly debated. Like, I can't believe this book wasn't on her list. And why did she include that? That book was trash. Like, I honestly don't care. Like, what can I do? I have a book deal. I'm going to write it. I'm going to pick books. Like, how could I have 101 spots. Like, how could I possibly choose every book that so-and-so thinks should be on it? Like,
hey man, you didn't give me your email so I could check in with you first.
Yeah. So that's fine.
But let's be clear. At some point, you mentioned earlier that not everybody's going to love every book, but in the reverse, there are some books that are universally hated, but were at one time universally loved, like Ethan Frome. Somehow or another, Edith Wharton convinced some scholar to put Ethan Frome in the reading list for colleges and even some high schools. And now, thank God, somebody's like they're finally taking it off the reading list.
Too late for me.
Yeah.
Pete Rollick, Shut Your Whore Mouth. That is a brilliant book. That is one of the great novels. Just shut up.
Universally hated.
Hey,
Is that what you said?
In 10th grade, I had to write a sequel to that. That was my assignment, a sequel story to Ethan Frome.
And you like how I set you up, John?
That was good. Thank you. I appreciate that. That was just boom.
Shut your whore.
This will be the takeaway from this episode.
Yes, it will.
Oh my God, I love it. Well, I mean, here's a tidbit. Don't go into this book thinking like House of Leaves is going to be on there, because I hate that book. Like, I know that people love House of Leaves. I thought it was pretentious and I hated it. Like, that's just, so it's my recommendations. Like, people are going to be like, oh, I can't believe House of Leaves wasn't on there. I hate to disappoint, but not really.
You can't even make a list of 10 of anything and make it available for other people to read in whatever format without getting
Right.
that. So
Right. That's all I do is write listicles for the lineup and Lit Reactor. I took a hiatus in 2022 because I was writing my book.
mhm.
But every time I put a listicle, somebody will be like, I see you forgot, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I didn't fucking forget it. I didn't like it or I didn't read it. Like, get out of here. Like, just.
I always love the condescending tone of I see you forgot, you know.
I hate it.
And
It's
then you have
like-
people that do it right. They'll be like, great list. And here's a few others to consider. Now, to me, that's a good comment.
Yes,
You know.
100%. I love getting recommendations. It's a great starting point to talk about other books. People will be like, oh, if you liked that book, you might enjoy blah, 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 and it's like, great. Yeah, I love book discussion. That's the whole point of why we do what we do on social media. But to assume that I forgot something or like I didn't add that to my list, or I mean, speaking of Ramsey Campbell, he is adorable because he always comes and tells me that I forgot his book on my list.
That's awesome.
I know. I promise Ramsey Campbell I'm going to read one of your books. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I love it.
But this also goes kind of hand in hand with what I do with my girls is I try to give them a moviecation, right? A movie education, so that when they see pop culture comments that they don't understand, like they should recognize where that comes from. I'd like to have them have that cultural reference, particularly if it comes from horror movies, because it would be really, really embarrassing if my kids didn't get some vague horror movie reference.
Yeah, you could show yourself never in public again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, never show your face in public again.
Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah, okay. So, listen, you guys, you can go and pre-order that on Amazon, I'm assuming, and
Yes.
also on anywhere else.
It's Barnes and Noble, Bookshop.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to promote bookshop.org. When you pre-order, I think like the closest bookstore near you can fulfill that order for you.
Oh,
It's really
nice.
cool. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Again, the title is 101 Horror Books to Read Before You're Murdered by Sadie Hartmann. That's SADIE. I will have a link in the show notes. And Hartmann is with 2 N's at the end. So yeah, tell us about, this is such a cool idea. Tell us about Nightworms.
Oh, so I own a horror subscription company called Nightworms. We are a monthly horror book club. It's not like Book of the Month where our customers can choose a book that they want to get in their package. It's curated by my business partner and myself. We go off of books that we have read, like we had read advanced a reading copy of a new release or something, or a book that we just want for ourselves. So it's curated by us, surrounding a theme. So like our theme in February, which we just did pre-orders for, the theme is Keep Out. And the 2 books on there are haunted house books that are new releases coming out. And then we do optional spoilers on our Instagram because a lot of our customers are like us and they buy everything. But the benefit of ordering through us is that they get it at a deal, because the 2 books combined plus all the goodies that we throw in, is the value there is much more than if they were to just go order those books on their own. Plus we oftentimes throw in signed book plates. We used to be able to do signed books when we were smaller. Like I remember we sent all of these books to Josh Mallerman, and then he had like pallets of books that he went through and he signed them. And then the publisher just like didn't coordinate with us the pickup and delivery back to us. So he just had a lot of books sitting at his house for a while that we had to go figure out for him. So we've gotten too big to do signed books anymore. But sometimes we partner with like Thunderstorm, if you guys are familiar with Paul at Thunderstorm Books, and we will order some novellas. Like we did an Anya Allborn one, we did Christopher Triana, we've done Bracken McLeod. So we order a novella, they print through Thunderstorm, and then they do those signature pages that are then sewn into the book. So they do get signed books sometimes. And then, yeah, the goodies, we don't do funky merch like t-shirts and coffee mugs and all of that, because that's just extra shit that ends up laying around your house that doesn't really get used. Like, not to cast shade, I won't specifically call them out, but there is a book box that sends one book and then the rest of it's all stuff I would never want. So Ashley and I used to rep for a horror book subscription company called Nocturnal Reader Box, which has since imploded. But when we were repping for them, that was one of the biggest complaints between reps, was that we were getting stuff like a plastic compass or something that you're just like, what am I supposed to do? Like, your kids end up with all of this stuff.
Yeah, it sounds kind of cheap.
Yeah, we just put in like stickers. We'll make like a sticker that goes with the theme, and people love to decorate their Kindles or their laptops, so it's usually like a horror related sticker. Bookmarks, advertising upcoming books. We'll do flyers for upcoming books, discounts from publishers. Like we did like Tor Nightfire one time, and they just included all this great swag and discounts for our customers. And so yeah, that's a monthly thing that we do.
That's great. So it's
Yeah.
let's see, it's nightworms.com.
Mhm.
And is there choices on the packages, or just one package and they get that and then they're in the program?
Yeah, so we're going into our 4th year of business. So we've kind of established a rhythm with our customers and what they prefer. And it is a pre-order based subscription company. So we have a set amount of subscribers that, some people pause or skip or whatever. So our number fluctuates. So we always offer like a few spots every month, although that is getting super limited. And then we sell one-off packages too. So people don't have to subscribe. They could just buy a one-time package. And like I said, Instagram shows what we're carrying. So our January packages are actually going out this week. And there's a really cool book in there. I probably shouldn't say, when is this going to air? Actually,
About 3 hours from now.
Oh, never mind. I won't say. Just in case.
Well, you got some really kind words from, speaking of Josh Mallerman and other people. Here's one from Brian Keene. I am skeptical of all these subscription companies, but Nightworms isn't really a subscription box. There's something different, and I think it's a really great service. I think it's worth the money, and I wanted my readers to discover them. So.
Yeah, we did a cool partnership with Brian Keene on his book Ghoul. It's an older title, but we thought we could like freshen it up, and he could write like a new introduction, and we could introduce readers. We just weren't seeing people reading that book because it's an older title. And after we sent that out, people were like hungry for Brian Keene again. It was really cool to see. So
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know you have to go soon to the store with your husband, but let's see here. What was I going to ask you? Oh yeah, Dark Heart Books. Talk about that.
So Dark Heart is an imprint of my parent company, which is Dark Matter Magazine. If you're familiar with Dark Matter Magazine, they are a monthly magazine that publishes short fiction in the sci-fi, horror, and dark fantasy elements. And Rob Carroll offered me an imprint through his magazine of horror titles. So we published our first 3 books in 2022. I'm publishing a series called Blackwells by C.S. Humble, which is sort of like, for Jim Butcher fans, it's like supernatural thriller horror. but also deals a lot with like the characters' relationships with one another and engaging with supernatural aspects in like a really deep way. And then I also published Root Work by Tracy Cross, which is like Southern Gothic with a, she's a Black horror writer. And so she's really writing from like her experience. The characters are based on like family members of her who practiced root work magic. And so it kind of fulfills this like niche that I wasn't seeing in the horror genre at all. And then moving into 2023, I have 2 titles that we're publishing so far. One of which is by a deaf author who wrote a horror story about like from the deaf experience. So it's about this child who was not taught language. He was in a neglectful, abusive home, and they didn't teach him sign. So he ends up getting away from that situation and has to learn language himself. He ends up institutionalized and meets another deaf teenager who teaches him sign language, but he's also a aspiring cult leader. So it goes into some really dark places, but the sign in that book, I just got chills because I was thinking about it again, but the sign language in that book is so beautiful. I've never read anything like it in my entire life. The way that the author translate language through gestures and symbols and signs and the communication between these 2 deaf teenagers with this one feral child who had never experienced language before was it was like nothing I've ever read before. And that comes out in 2023.
When you read or have the opportunity to publish something that is unlike anything you've read before, or you're about to have that experience, if you have that experience, it can't be understated, because there's a lot of great horror out there, and there's a lot of horror that's, just it's another horror book, what I mean? And something different like that is always great.
It's
that's
really
not coming out really
different.
well, but and then the other one is also looked very different. I mean, somebody tweeted about it, and I got really interested based on their tweet. I'm gonna butcher this name, but AI Jiang.
Oh yeah, so Dark Matter also has another imprint of their own called Dark Ink. So
Okay.
that title is coming through his imprint,
Oh, I
Dark
see.
Ink.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Kun, something like that.
I'm currently reading that story, and I is one of the best writers coming up and coming right now. She has a very unique voice, and it's so cool to see cultural elements from other places and exotic locations and different people groups who have a completely different experience with horror than our Western culture. Like, right. I remember at the event that I met John Langan at Merrimack Book Festival, one of the panels was talking about that exact thing, and Cassandra Kaw was talking about how, like, in Asian culture, horror is like an everyday thing. Like, they talk about ghosts like they're just there with us, all the time, and demons, and it's wildly different than what we experience here. And so to open yourself to translated horror, or like what Valancourt Books is doing with their global horror anthology series, it's eye-opening to read books from other languages and other perspectives and other cultures. It's so different than what we experience here.
Yes, it definitely is. Last but not least, I'll just briefly mention, I will link to your link tree, and that's, folks, how you can head over to some of these sites that we've talked about, and publishing companies and projects that we've talked about today. But you call it your Dark Library novella series. And
yes, my Dark Library
collection of novellas curated by Sadie Mother Horror Hartmann to represent her favorite themes, tropes, and subgenres in horror fiction today. So I don't know what you want to say about that, but I wanted to mention it so that people go visit it after they or while they listen to the show. So
Yeah, so My Dark Library was an open call, an open novella call that we just asked the horror community, like, here's some things that I enjoy. Like, if you could fulfill this tall order, send in your stories. And so we did get tons of novellas, and I read through all of those and picked 6 that I thought reflected things about the genre that I enjoy. 5 books, well, actually the 5th one is coming out at the end of this month, but 5 books have their covers and their pre-orders and are ready to buy now. And then the 6th book comes out not next month, but I think in March. But yeah, that's been really successful. That was through Cemetery Gates Media. And then Ashley and we own Nightworms. We also curated a anthology called Human Monsters, which was all short stories following nothing supernatural or paranormal, but all just like shitty people doing shitty things to each other. And that's out to be purchased now. It's a great, I know I'm biased, but it's a great anthology. There are some stories in there that range from like completely fucked up to like quiet, unnerving, like unsettling horror. So
right.
the full gamut. Yeah.
Guys, any questions you have for Sadie before we let her go that I didn't think to ask? No. So 101 horror books to read before you're murdered by Sadie Hartmann. It's available for pre-order already. This is January. It comes out in August. And like I always say, if you are listening to this and you feel like this book interests you, don't wait for August. Go ahead and pre-order it, because that means a lot to the writer, to the publisher. They get a sense of how much interest is going to be in the book. It's just, if you know you're going to get it, a rule of thumb, always pre-order. And that helps out at all.
Is it true, Sadie, that the first 100 people who pre-order will be told who is going to murder them and when?
Thank you, John. Yes, that's absolutely true. They
Okay, very good, people. There you go.
We already know that about you.
Yeah.
That'll help you with your next family gatherings. Who do you invite? Who don't you invite?
I've already told you who's going to murder you, John. So
You've told me you want to murder me, Mike.
That's not the same
thing. That's yeah. I've heard it from Pete. I mean, the number of people I've heard it. Well, let's face it, who haven't I heard it from? Right.
That's true.
So I do have a question.
Sure.
So this has been a very interesting conversation. Do you run a podcast or anything? Or are you in any other media besides on Instagram? I mean, Booktagram or whatever it's called?
No, my main platforms really are Instagram and Twitter. It used to be Twitter, but Twitter is like not my favorite anymore. It's an ugly, weird place. So Goodreads, if you follow me on Goodreads, I do update all the time. I'm like Mike mentioned, when you're reading a Kindle and you can make notes and highlights on what you're reading, I do that religiously. Like, I'm constantly doing that. I'm updating my progress in books. So I think following my reviews on Goodreads, I dabble on Reddit once in a while, because people will just have these questions that I love to answer. They're like, I just read my first Nick Cutter book. What should I read next? And I'm like, I love those kind of questions.
Yeah, there are some good conversations there.
Yeah, there's great readers over there. I also try to do TikTok videos, although I'm way too old to understand the algorithms and the way to do those, but I have fun trying. So yeah, that's on my link tree too. You can follow me on TikTok, but I'm just trying to get away from Twitter and kind of focus more on the platforms that I feel comfortable on.
Plus, as you say,
I just want to follow up on Matt's question. Let's say that a host were to mysteriously disappear from a podcast, right? Let's just say that were to happen. Is that the kind of thing you'd be interested in taking over?
I think that I would be interested if.
Okay, all right, that's good to know, Sadie. Good to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Every one of our listeners are like, "Oh, thank God, finally!"
They're going to tune in next week. They're going to be like, "Wait, where's Sadie?"
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yeah.
I have a quick question for you though. a non-interview question before you go.
Okay.
When I update my progress on Goodreads, I've got it using if this then that. I've got it set to update in my personal journal, which nobody ever sees. It's just me. So I can look back, and without actually doing the work, I can say, oh, I was reading this book that day. And it's just part of, to me, reading is not just part of what I'm doing that day. I mean, it's not just, it is part of what I'm doing that day. And so I want to include it in my journal for that day. So when I look back, it's not about just what I did or what I thought, but also what I read. So I've got that automatically going. I did, however, notice though that you've got that going on Twitter. Do you have it automatically going as well?
Yeah, they
And I
did
could not
say
figure
that.
out how.
Right. You know what? I think that I'm grandfathered in because I've been using Twitter since.
You're straight from Goodreads.
Yes.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm doing wrong. All right.
Yes, because check it out in your user settings. They threatened that they were going to do away with that link from
I looked
Goodreads to
last night.
Twitter.
They said they're not doing it anymore because very people were using it.
Okay,
I
so
doubt that.
I'm grandfathered in then because it hasn't changed for me. It still automatically updates to Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to do the same thing for Twitter that I'm doing for my journal, but yeah, you must be grandfathered in.
Yeah.
So thank you for talking with us today, Sadie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
You guys are gracious hosts. It was so fun talking to you,
Oh, no
and
problem.
I appreciate you inviting me.
No problem. Thanks for all that you do. I really do think it's important for all of us to support each other, and for those of us who do more reading than writing, and we are lucky enough to have a platform. I think it is important to use that platform to promote weird fiction, horror writers, and books that we like. So
yes, I agree.
So
yes.
Anyway, thank you for being here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I'll
Thanks,
send you a
Sadie.
link when it's all up for you.
Awesome. I will definitely promote that everywhere.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, Sadie.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, everyone.
See you, Sadie.
Take it
Goodbye.
easy, Sadie.
Hi.
Well, I really enjoyed speaking with her.
Yeah.
She's doing a lot of cool things.
Great work.
So yeah. Let's see here. Just for quick for the Patreons, we're doing a hangout this Thursday at the usual time, 9 p.m. Eastern, for the $10 and up Patreons. That's where it's non-recorded. We just use Zoom and chat, non-recorded, non-broadcasted. And then I've got another Patreon podcast coming this week. It's already recorded. I just got to post it. So with John Linwood Grant, actually.
Oh, nice.
So, I just thought it was important to talk to you. It was a deep background with him. I really admire the way that, a lot of people say it's never too late to start to achieve your dreams or begin to achieve your dreams or whatever. But John lived that. He didn't really start writing and publishing until he was 58, is what he told me. So, I think that's an important lesson. No matter who you are out there and what you want to do, whether it's writing, painting, music, anything else.
Gymnastics.
Exactly. Well, it might be too late for gymnastics for some of us. Yeah. But for the most part, it's not too late to achieve your dream, as hokey as that may sound. And I admire that he did it. And so I thought he was an important person to talk to about it. So, so that's coming up. Speaking of John Langan and me killing him, I've decided not to do that this week. I did post about this and got a lot of traction. There were a couple reviews that I found about The Fisherman. One was a YouTube one, and you'll like this. The Fisherman is the cosmic horror novel of my dreams. So I'm not sure if she liked it or not. Could be.
No, it was my mom. She loved it.
Oh, was it? Oh, that's awesome that she supports
Actually, she didn't
you.
read it. She was just like, it's wonderful.
It's wonderful. Now he won't bug me for a review any longer.
Right. Thanks, Mom.
And then another reviewer, The Fisherman is one of the best weird fiction novels I've ever read. I just
Also my
thought,
mom.
Yeah, I just thought, I haven't read this since it came out, and I did really love it. So, I'm gonna
But you'd had that
reread that
dental
soon.
work and you were high on pain medications. So it's entirely
Oh, it wasn't
possible.
it wasn't
Yeah.
because
Oh
of the
my
dental work.
goodness.
No.
Yeah, it's entirely possible that you would have a different experience. You'd be like, oh my God, and throw it across the room.
Yeah. Well, it's only $6.99 on Kindle. For those of you who have not read it, it really is a fine novel. And then Peter Rollick,
I
if you haven't
thought
picked
it
up,
was good.
huh?
I thought it was good.
Well, there you go.
He even
Actually, I
wrote a
was kind
blurb
of
for
upset.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
kind
I
of
saw
upset
that.
the German edition doesn't include my blurb.
It
Nine.
does. It's just in German.
Yeah.
Exactly. See? Yeah.
Godzilla ate your Herbie.
And the whole book has been artfully translated by Google Translate. So, Pete Rollick's latest book, The Eldritch Equations and Other Investigations.
Oh my God.
Don't forget about that one, folks.
I had to tell you guys a story, and you
Sure.
guys can see pictures.
Yay, story time with Pete.
So
Wait, I got to turn on the fireplace.
Wait, is this a family-friendly story, or is this one
Yeah,
of your Pete Rollick
yeah.
specials?
So
An SFW people.
The publisher, not the publisher, but the printing. Yeah, I'm owed readers' copies, right? Or writers' copies to give out to friends. So, we published it through Amazon Press, whatever. So my publisher said, oh yeah, we'll just send you your copies via Amazon and they'll just send them to you from wherever.
That should work in theory.
I have 10 bags from Amazon with one book each in them that have come from all over the Southeast. I'm not joking.
That's silly.
And there's a pile of packages at the front door.
I'll bet Mandy loves that.
We're gonna do an unboxing video.
Hey, look, it's another book.
An unbagging video. Yeah.
Oh man.
Like literally, I know that. Okay, so she's been upset already because she went away after Christmas to spend some time with her mom.
Did she?
I took all my Amazon gift cards and went and bought everything I didn't get. So
Hilarious.
As you do.
as you do,
As
right?
you do.
It's like you gave me money
For Christmas.
for Christmas. I'm going to spend it. So it has been a total influx of books in the last 10 days. And this has just been the icing on the cake of 10 individual packages, all with the exact same book. And yeah.
It's silly.
Speaking of books and
Yes.
you surprised me with a book.
I did.
I was looking around. I think Danielle hung up some pictures in my office for me and moved that book somewhere. But it's like a history of the next 1,000 years.
Yeah.
I love it, but how did you know I would love it?
Because I know you love time travel books.
Yeah. Okay.
And I always think of time travel as reverse, but this is a history of the future.
Right.
And and it's all bullshit, but it's
Well, it's longer than the one I was going to write, where we
Yeah.
all die within 200 years. So
I really, because I'm thinking next week, but okay.
just like, don't be so negative, Mike.
I'm not negative. I'm
No,
very,
she
very
glared
positive.
at me when I said that.
I'm very, very positive that we're fucked.
Me too, actually. Looming Low 2.
Yeah, I've
Is
written a review for that. You haven't posted it.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Oh,
Hey, man,
okay.
I could not even get out of bed this week. And when
I
I
was-
say that, that means something.
I was up at 5:30 and we were at the beach at 8:00. And I found 5
What?
cents.
Digging ditches? You were
I
having
found 5
fun.
cents in my new metal detector. And then a penny later.
Anyway, I was going to point out that it's out and that we'll have a review up in the next couple of days on the Lovecraft
Okay.
Teasing website, written by Pete Rollick. But I mean, if you're going to be that way,
The problem is, like, is if we don't post the reviews, we don't get more books.
We're going to post the review
I'm just
next couple
saying.
days.
And DeBronzo's going to agree with me.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
I promised you I'd be better about it. I did one right before Christmas, and now I'm going to do this one.
Can I make a suggestion since we're talking about John and Pete? You know how you have that
Yes.
Victor Laval video on ezine page, why he likes the ezine, loves ezine.
Right.
Can we have one
There
where
was a gun on
John?
him at the time.
Can we have the one? What? Just have John underneath as a compliment piece saying "Shut your whore mouth, Pete Rollick." So we have a nice
Yes.
cross section.
Dash
that-
John Langan.
That's gonna
No
be my new
context,
ringer.
though.
It's gonna be
No
my
context.
new phone ringer.
And no context at all. People are gonna be like, "Wow, the Lovecraft easy game."
Every time Pete calls, I'll hear Langan's voice. Shut your whore mouth, Pete Rollick.
That would like.
Can you just edit that soundbite out and send it to all of us on it like an
Actually, I
MP3?
can. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
the
please.
e-zine is pretty brutal.
I regret nothing.
And no one
It'll be-
expected you to.
Somebody will put that as his ringtone just when he calls.
Actually, okay, so listen, all of us, I want to get that as our ringtone for Mike Davis.
So every time,
Every time Mike Davis calls,
shut
John
your
Lang
whore mouth.
says, shut your whore mouth. But listen, here's the kicker. We all go on a panel at Necronomic, and then Mike calls us.
Yeah. Yeah.
That reminds me of the in Fletch, where he's on the plane. He's like trying to make notes in the tape recorder. He's like, question. He hits the play button. She's like, "You're not recording this, are you?" No, never. You know, I could just see on the panel we're trying to do something like that as a joke, and it comes out. Shut your whore mouth.
I just like the idea that we have it available now as a response to Pete.
Yes.
You know, if there's something that he says, you know, we can just be like, "Hang on a second," and
Hit
hit the
that
button.
button.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
because
an
if you
old
don't
time
make it-
radio show where you have it
Exactly,
on the
yeah.
button ready to go.
I can't wait for the next panel Pete's on in public, like Necronomicon. You know somebody's gonna get up, shut your whore mouth, Rollick.
Oh yeah, they're going to be competitions to do that. It's gonna, yeah.
People are gonna raise their hand. Like, yes, yeah,
I think it would look good
Shut
on a
your whore
T-shirt,
mouth,
to be
Rollick.
honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's make T-shirts.
Oh
Like
my
that
God.
one with the women and the cat. You know, shut your
Yeah.
whore mouth. You know.
There's been some magic made here today. I can
What
say
was the
that.
what was the Jeff Thomas thing that we did?
The
Did
head.
you guys do a mask
There
or
was the
something?
head, but then there
Oh
was
well,
a quote.
there was one where Jeff kept saying his daughter said "Holy darn."
No, his daughter
Um,
said, "What the man."
What the man?
What
That
the
was
man?
Yeah. What
Yeah.
the man.
So
There's a
that
lot
was-
more PC than shut your whore mouth, right?
A little bit.
Langan has never claimed to be
after the
PC.
last few years, man.
Oh
It's
my
just
God!
you know,
Speaking. Okay, so I don't know why this just sparked it. Did anybody read what's his name? Oh, what was it? What's his name?
I've
he's
read what's his name.
The guy that did that thing, yeah.
Yeah, no.
with the other guy.
Who's a what's it?
First
uh,
base.
Damn it! It came in out of my head. Ken
Genius
Height.
is funny that way. Yeah.
Ken Height. Did anybody read his Facebook?
Oh
page?
yeah, I read that.
Holy shit!
Why? What did you say?
He got shot.
What? Like shot?
Shot.
Shot.
Ooh.
First of all, he lives in Chicago, and he was walking home from a working.
That's all you
session.
need to know.
He was, he was
Mm.
walking home from a work session at 3:00 in the morning, and two cars pulled up, and guys jumped out, and words were exchanged, and
What the
shots
hell?
were fired.
Yeah, I got it right here. Kenneth Height, and this is public, so it's okay to read. So I got shot in the leg this morning. I'm fine. The bullet went through and through. Didn't hit bone or a major blood vessel. If you're in the market for a gunshot wound, I would recommend this one. I was walking home about at 3:10 a.m. from a co-working session a block from my house. Car pulls up. Two guys with guns jump out. Words are exchanged. I dodge past one and run. He lets off 4 or 5 rounds, then realizes he's let 4 or 5 rounds in the very heavily policed Hyde Park, and they jump back in the car and tear off. Why were they shooting at him? I go inside, see blood on the floor, wake up Sheila. She calls 911, and the cops show up. I get the tourniquet and a ride to the hospital, whereas a gunshot victim I checked in under a pseudonym. Easily the coolest thing that happens to me. By 7:25 a.m., my very cool nurse, Kayla, has tied my bandage, and I am dismissed with permission to mix acetaminophen and ibuprofen.
And alcohol. Let
The fuck? He gets shot and that's all they give him? I mean,
Well-
we've gone from you've stubbed your toe, here's a bucket full of opioids to, oh, you were just shot in the face 3 times, take an aspirin, you pussy. You know,
I figure if you get shot, you're at least in the hospital for a day.
I figured they give you some real pain
know
medicine.
anything about the wound. All right. So this is all speculation. You don't know what body site,
I know
how
he got
much blood
shot.
loss. It's like,
I think he said shot in the
So-
leg.
so if he
I
was just
see.
like shot through the calf or something like that, maybe it wasn't that bad. Like,
I'm
If I
sure
get shot
any shots.
anywhere,
well,
any
shot's
I get
bad, but
shot
come on, it wasn't
anywhere,
like
I'm
you
taking
took something
pain
in the gut or pierced an organ.
You know what? The next time
Matt,
we're all
I'm gonna have to
Phenomenon,
strongly disagree with
let's
you
all
on this.
shoot Matt.
I'm just saying it's like it doesn't necessarily require hospitalization if it was.
I understand.
I'm not
basic-
talking about hospitalization. I'm talking about pain medication.
Well,
Give
if
her
he wanted to have a
ibuprofen.
party, he could have just called me.
First, it's shut your
Ibuprofen?
whore mouth.
Oh my
Now
gosh.
it's shoot Matt. Yeah, I don't
Let's
know,
shoot
man.
Kenneth
This
Haidt.
is- We're escalating.
This
Yeah,
episode
this
is
weird
gold.
fiction community is getting really weird,
Really violent. Yeah.
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 Fuck.
Sorry, I didn't mean to digress, but that just popped into my head. for some
No,
reason.
it's
Oh, I think that's right
That's
on topic.
That's crazy.
I'm so glad he was okay because
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
guy, and I just wouldn't want anything to
I
happen.
am dismissed with permission to mix acetaminophen and ibuprofen. All right. When we return home, Sheila's demon cat, Black Phillip, has won the mental bet I made with myself by not having lapped up my blood. So, like I said, I'm fine. I leave you with this thought from the unexpectedly goth nurse, Kayla. I know people worry they've lost too much blood. Don't worry, you keep making more, just like tears. That's a very deep thought.
That's great.
Anyway,
Matt,
Mm.
if I'm shot and you're my doctor, I better get some pain meds that are better than ibuprofen.
If you're shot and I'm your doctor, you won't need them. I mean, it's like
That's pretty true.
you'll need embalming fluid, maybe, but not pain.
Shit just got dark.
What's in that syringe, doctor? Don't worry about it, Mike.
Don't you
worry.
worry.
Thank you for being glowing.
Wait, just let me check with Danielle. Okay, yep, here we go.
Yeah, she says go for it.
Got the authorization.
All right. So on that note, like everyone, okay, so I work for a state agency. My wife's mother worked for the state agency. One of my wife's best friends worked for that same state agency.
So
Every
you're,
once in
you're
a
I know
while-
this is going somewhere.
Nepotism Pete. Okay.
Yeah, but every once in a while I come home and I find all 3 of them talking about my benefits and how much I'm worth dead.
Hmm.
they
Oh,
still
dear.
send you. They still send you in the swamp, Pete.
Well,
Yeah.
it's absolutely
You
they
might
send
open-
him in the swamp. They're just like,
And then the conversation goes, oh, and if he's dismembered, he's worth more.
Oh my gosh.
And then they're like, oh, he's here. And
Sorry, I just had visions of you coming out of the swamp like Lestat.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So many, many years ago, I was in the float helicopter and we were taking samples in the field, and I was covered head to toe in muck, and I was wearing waders, and the waders were full of stuff, and I snapped my glasses in half,
Mm.
my only glasses, and like I'm
Oh,
holding them
smash.
together, right? So I call on the cell phone. I call up the 2-hour place, right? And there's like, oh yeah, you have to come in, but you have to come and get them, and we close at 6 o'clock. So I'm walking through the mall,
you were like, challenge accepted.
right? And I'm leaving a trail of muck as I walk through the mall, and I
Oh.
get to the
Like security, homeless man outside of.
Oh no.
in my chest waders, all
So wait,
that stuff.
I thought you were going to tell us about that time, like you found that dismembered corpse or whatever that went through like the pump.
Oh,
because that would like kind of fit in with your wife's plans for you, I think.
Yeah, that was nasty. There's also the time we found the guy dying on the levee, but
Mm.
you know,
Did he drive his Chevy there?
no, he okay, so the levee runs between two swamps, and there's a gate on the levee that says, don't drive your car here. And he parked his car, got out
Ignore
of
the
car.
song. Don't drive your car here.
The levee was not dry, by the way.
The
Okay.
levee was dry. He got out of
Oh.
the car with his oxygen tank and then walked 10 miles in.
But
With an
those
oxygen
oxygen
tank.
tanks aren't rated for 10 miles.
You're
No
telling me there's not a happy ending to this story?
No, there's not a happy ending to this story.
And he hit a methane pocket.
And
Oh,
we picked
okay,
him
so
up in
Pete,
the
wait,
float
just how
heli-
much was in his wallet?
Not enough. He died in the helicopter on the way to the hospital.
Aw.
Jeez.
I'm back
Was
to
there a
imagining
reason?
Pete walking through the mall, and the security guards are
Yeah.
like, "We got a swamp thing here."
It's not pretty. But
Y'all seen that?
A friend of
movie?
the green. I am a friend of the green.
anyway,
Converge. Yeah. So, funny thing
Speaking of crazy-
happened, huh?
You know what stops a swamp thing? Fire.
which I've never understood because they're wet.
Aim for the head.
Swamp things are notoriously wet. Wet
Right.
things don't burn. But I digress.
So you guys see this Susan Meachin thing? This writer?
Oh,
Yes,
God.
that was
Yes, I read
crazy.
I thought it was like an Onion article at first.
And
So-
This is
unfortunately,
why the
no.
Onion went out of business.
Huh?
Because this is why the Onion went out of business. Because
Oh,
you can't make this shit up anymore.
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, she committed suicide because of online bullying. Except she didn't really commit suicide. Here's a list from someone on Reddit. This is what I've gathered from Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. Now, there's articles about this everywhere. Rolling Stone, CNN. You can Google it. I'll probably include a link in the show notes. All right. She was an indie romance author and cover artist. She had a custom cover art slot sale and took in a lot of money. Let's move on. Decided to fake her suicide, having her quote daughter take over her account / Facebook group. Made a new pen name a month later to join the Facebook group, and then took it over as hers. She created 3 new pen names over the last 2 years, all failed. Now, the last few days is that, and there were GoFundMes for her family, for the funeral costs. They did an anthology because her friends and fellow writers were so distraught that she killed herself, supposedly. And of course you would be. They did an anthology called, what was it called?
Bully romance, I think.
Bully Romance, Supernatural Bully Romance.
There
No,
you go.
if that's not great,
Hit on the
not a
nose,
great
yeah.
title. I don't know what is. But it could be that I don't know what it is because it's
I
a
was gonna
horrible title. The indie community gathered together to, do what they do, which is be good people. Created a charity auction with the money going to a charity in her name. All right. Charity auction money with going to Susan's daughter, in quotes. Another one going to Susan's daughter, in quotes. An anthology, that's the Supernatural Bully Romance, going to Susan's daughter. They helped for free edit, bring this anthology into being. And and she comes back from the dead and is like, what are you people so upset about, essentially? So here's a quote from her. Question: what would you say to those who feel that they have donated under a false pretense and might feel wronged? I know I would. To those who donated, she says, Susan Meacham, to those who donated, I would again stress, I feel like I should be reading this in like a Joker voice or something. To those who donated, I would again stress this wasn't demanded of them. I'm sorry they feel wronged, but they chose to, in caps, donate. It doesn't magically become a loan because they regret it now. And why, in caps, do they? Because an author told a story? The only difference versus now versus before is I'm alive. They'd rather be dead than they'd be happy about donating. That's what it seems like they're saying. They're cruelly wishing death on me. I added the voice.
That's great.
Yeah, and when you give money, I can't believe I have to point this out, but when you give money under a false pretense, yeah, you're not that you wouldn't have donated otherwise. That's fraud. I think it's the legal term. So, yeah. Any comments?
Where does one begin?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I read the whole article. She wraps it all up as like, this is going to be for my next novel.
Right.
This was basically all research.
And she's basically saying, well, writers make shit up all the time. Yeah. And we read them as fiction.
And so is this the reverse James Frey novel, the book, where
I don't know who that is.
He was the guy who lied to Oprah,
yeah.
who should also shut his whore mouth.
I
Yeah.
must miss that episode of Oprah.
He published what he said was a memoir called A Million Little Pieces. And it was, I guess, well enough written. And he claimed that it was this story of addiction and recovery and blah, blah, blah. Well, it was a novel. But he passed it off as a memoir. And then
Now I
everything
remember.
started to unravel.
Like Vanilla Ice.
He was also the guy who at one point, oh man, was this the late 90s, early 2000s? He had set up this kind of workshop for MFA students coming out. And of course, one of the things about a lot of MFA programs, not all of them, but a lot of them, is that they have no like practical training, and how to deal with the real world, the real marketplace of being a writer. So anyway, he set up this deal where MFA students would come in and they would agree to work for him, and he would give them an idea and they would write the novel and they would get $20,000 and he would keep all the rest. And they would also sign a non-disclosure agreement. Now, I don't know if this thing like lasted or even took off, but he's one of the few people I really want to punch in the face. It's a short list.
James Patterson?
No, James Frey. James. I mean, Patterson's dishonest as well. Don't get me wrong, but Frey took it to it's not quite as bad as what's his name, George Santos, but we're definitely sort of skewing in that direction.
Jesus.
Well, we never had these kind of problems when Santos was Speaker of the House.
He's my congressman.
Thanks, Obama.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks,
He's my
Obama.
congressman.
Rick, I'm sorry, but
I
this
did
is
not
on
vote
you.
for him.
This is on you. I'm sorry. You got
I
to do
can
something
say
about this.
I did not vote for him.
Rick, what would the shadow do? The shadow knows.
The
Yeah.
shadow would
Shadow
shoot James
knows.
Patterson. And if you know what's going on with James Patterson in the shadow, James Patterson took over the shadow.
And Doc Savage too, right?
Right. And
Oh yeah. No, you're right. You're right. The
I
shadow.
have not read the novels because I have so much better stuff to read.
But you know that James Patterson isn't writing those novels, so
No, he's farming them out.
Yeah, so maybe he's farming them out to someone half decent.
This I love too.
On the plot of the Shadow novel, which involves time travel, he isn't farming it out to somebody decent.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, James Patterson, your time is up too. You, James Frey.
You've been canceled. She goes, her basically what she's saying is no one forced them to do that. I'm reading. So why would they be owed anything? That's like, I mean, what's an example?
It is Trumpian levels of dishonesty.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is so bad.
And the narcissism.
It is unacceptable. I mean, and of course, I guess she's going to defend herself. And, people are already saying, oh, well, she's obviously mentally ill. Well, there are plenty of mentally ill people who don't pull this kind of stuff.
Well,
There are plenty of people who struggle with this all the time and don't pull this kind of stuff.
But
Yeah.
isn't it, if it's fraud, wouldn't it be subject to local prosecution or investigation?
I think so. Yeah.
You'd think
It's
this
interesting 'cause
just happened. She just came out of the death closet, you might say.
It's funny to think about it. I mean, it's across state lines
So
because
might
it was
be a
done. It
federal-
was
federal,
done
wouldn't
using
it?
the internet, so it is actually a federal crime.
So eventually someone's going to bitch to somebody and she'll be
Finally, Merrick
investigated.
Garland decides to take action on something.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
If nothing
Oh,
else,
we're getting very political.
I would think that she would be prosecuted, but if nothing else, she's going to get sued, class action or something.
I would think so.
Yeah. Here's a quote when she's answering this lady that's doing the interview. But no one forced them to do that, talking about give money. So why would they be owed anything? You know, I guess, what if I said that one of my cats was gonna die if they didn't get surgery and it cost $5,000? But that wasn't the case. I just wanted $5,000. That's the same. I mean, you can't then say, well, nobody forced you to give to this, you know. Can't believe I'm even explaining this. The same goes for you guys, you writer friends out there will love this one. The same goes for those who donated their services, you writers and editors, to get the book published. Donated, all caps, so she must be right. Suddenly they think there's a contract for them to get paid money, as though, John, they haven't already been paid in exposure.
People
didn't
die of exposure. Remember that. People die
No
of
one forced them to
exposure.
do that either, she says.
Well, but wait a minute. Okay, so
And you don't want us exposing
book-
ourselves.
but the book has to be
No one got that
copyrighted
reference.
and the funds have to be sent to somebody.
Hmm.
Somebody had to have a bank account.
Her family.
Her daughter.
Well, she claims
her
that it's her daughter, and
daughter,
she's
yeah.
like, I don't know anything about
So she's
that.
throwing her daughter under the bus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So suddenly, there's malfeasance here on somebody's part.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just have to figure
Mm.
out who.
I just, we could argue that this is, not worth talking about, but I mean,
But yeah,
writers
here we are.
acting this way, but yeah, here we are talking
It's
about
so
it.
stupid. It is worth
Yeah.
talking about.
Mhm.
It's one.
It's,
Well, I
it's
think
like
it's
watching
because,
a car
like-
crash or
Like so many
train crash.
people in the arts in general, right, do these amazing things. People get sick and like, I don't have health insurance, and people,
Yes.
give all kinds of support. And to see somebody so cynically taking advantage of that,
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I could almost see it if she just let everybody think she was still dead and that was it. And she just lived out her life,
Right.
pulled an Elvis. But if, but the fact that she's trying to come back from it and profit off it.
Yeah,
is
because her
just-
other pseudonyms
Weird.
didn't work.
Yeah,
Was
it's just so despicable. It
Was it-
really is. Shame on her.
Was it James Rathwhite? Remember didn't he crash his motorcycle and ended up going into, I could be wrong. I'm trying to find
Be
it.
careful, because James Rathwright will show up and punish you for your mistakes.
Yeah, but I don't see Elvis asking me for a GoFundMe, trying to get me to donate.
Yeah. No, and I thought it was, look, I don't know who it was, but there was some author who had an accident. They thought they were brain dead. There was an outpouring from the community. They got good doctors and therapy, and this guy came back.
Right.
That actually rings a bell. I don't know who it was, but that rings a bell.
And he ended up coming back full-fledged and started publishing books again.
Yeah,
So,
it does. That does not just, to your point, Pete, it does not just hurt, and it hurt greatly, the friends that, were brokenhearted about this, that gave of their time and their money over the last couple of years, but also those who, we call it being a patron, for example, for a reason, because you're giving money because you think that whatever this person's doing, whatever it is so cool that you're kind of glad you live in a world where you can help them to keep doing it,
Mhm.
or a GoFundMe because, they aren't able to afford insurance, and you want to help out. We should all help each other out, right? But the problem is you have people who pull this kind of fraud and too much, and people start to think, well, is he really telling the truth about needing a new hip? You know, all that kind of stuff. You know,
Yeah.
It's not
And-
even like I'm sorry. It's not like she even got outed. She outed herself.
And she's unrepentant. That's the thing.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
like
is
it's like it does.
absolutely unrepentant.
What do you mean? What's the big deal? I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you?
Well,
right.
and,
I told the
and not
story.
not just going, yeah, not just defending herself, but going on the attack. What, you'd rather I wish I was dead? You know, that's some
Yeah.
Well, now,
well,
Deflecting to everybody else. Well, I had to do this whole thing in the first place because people bullied me. And then
Right.
look, people are bullying me again. You think?
Right.
yeah, I
Right.
saw that. No,
Yeah.
Okay.
they're pissed off
That-
because you're a terrible human being and you stole
Yeah.
their money, basically.
Yeah.
So,
Unbelievable.
anyway,
Not that anybody deserves to be bullied, but goodness.
Yeah.
how is so glorious, Matt?
but
Matt's
it
looking at
was-
the clock because he's like,
It's a,
"Still
no,
wrap
it's a
this up."
very interesting movie. I really didn't know anything about it. So the main actor who appears on screen is the guy who played Jason from True Blood.
Yep.
So I haven't seen him in much since then, but he's a good actor. And he plays a character who has a kind of similar, you think he's a stupid, goofy persona, some loser guy. And he's obviously down on his luck or something's going wrong. And he's drinking too much and he's driving and he just pulls over at some deserted rest stop on some obscure highway, goes into the rather disgusting men's room, and someone starts talking to him from the other stall. And the voice from the other stall is played by J.K. Simmons. You never actually,
Oh, this is that
Correct.
movie. Is it worth
Yeah.
watching?
oh my
I watched
gosh,
it-
yes,
Yeah.
it's extremely
Really?
cosmic.
Yeah.
It's
It's,
like-
it's
Cool.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's not
I
scary.
mean, it's not. Is it something I want to not watch with my kid in the room?
Yeah, you don't
No.
want to watch it with
Yeah.
Your kid is old enough that you could watch it with your kid.
No, I
in the
know
room.
he is, but
Would you feel
yeah,
uncomfortable?
There's some
I would
references,
probably
like-
feel uncomfortable.
Right.
There was one very amusing reference, like, Glorious.
I
And
get
there's
it.
a glory hole in the stall of the bathroom.
Which does lead to one of the funniest moments in the
Yeah,
movie.
it really did.
No,
It just
yeah,
was
yeah.
completely out of left
Yeah.
field. I did not expect this, but it's more of a reference, I think, to the meaning of life, but that's another story.
So
No, I
the
agree.
odds-
I watched it because I just was I was like, oh, I got to see this. I got to see this, and just to check it off the list. And I was
yeah.
so impressed. I really was. I actually think if you've seen A Wounded Fawn, it actually makes kind of interesting viewing alongside A Wounded Fawn. But I can't
Yeah.
really talk about why. But just it does.
Haven't seen
Okay,
that one.
I'll remember that.
Yeah. But it's really well written, well acted, and
It might
yeah,
fit in
it
your-
just I was like, it helps. Maybe sometimes it helps to go in with low expectations, just
Yeah.
like, because I was
And
like,
don't
oh,
watch- don't
glorious,
watch the
right?
trailer, right?
An evil glory hole, right? Yeah, okay.
you might find the
That's what I thought it was
with the
probably.
cosmic
That
horror
probably was.
movies.
Yeah,
might
it
make
is.
it
It is
easier.
absolutely a cosmic horror movie.
Yeah.
It does. That's funny. I'd actually like to discuss this movie with Ramsey Campbell. Let's get him back on.
Yeah.
We can do that. He loves talking about
Yeah.
movies.
Well, it's the glory hole part, that I feel like
Oh,
Ramsey
that's
would
true.
probably have some amusing anecdotes about other films.
Or
Where
other
is this
events.
streaming?
Shutter.
Better, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You
And
could probably
you know,
buy it on Amazon too if you don't have Shutter. But then again, we should all have Shutter. It's cheap
John
enough.
brings up A Wounded Fawn. I put that on as background noise because I figured it was just going to be a shit movie. And it turned out to be really, really good.
Yeah, and I the main male lead, Josh Rubin. He's written and directed a couple of his own movies, Scare Me and Werewolves Within. But just as an actor, he makes really interesting choices. So this film had a lot of good buzz, A Wounded Fawn, before it was released. But also just the fact that he was involved with it, I was like, I think I'm probably going to want to take a look at this.
Well, to shift 180 degrees, several of us tried to watch The Rig,
No.
new 6-part series on 6-episode series on Amazon Prime. I had high
Yeah.
hopes, the setting, the idea behind it. I made it to a few minutes into episode 3. For the listeners, viewers out there, honestly, if we can save you 6 hours, don't bother. I mean, really.
Yeah,
To
it's
watch
I made
Glorious and a Wounded Fawn.
yeah. There's definitely could be time spent better somewhere else.
Mhm.
It has, like Mike said, it's got a really great setup. Like when you see that trailer, like your imagination starts working. They're on a rig in the North Sea. There's a fog coming in, and I thought, wow, there's so much potential. And then you kind of like, by the halfway point, you're kind of like, okay, what's kind of going on? It's kind of interesting. And like I told you guys, like I watched the last 2 episodes just because I was that invested in it, so I need to see how it ends.
At which
But-
point I brought up Sunk Cost.
Yeah, and that's a good analogy.
I
And-
finished through episode 3.
That's when you tapped out.
Yeah, so far.
And
It
It-
felt like they just put a bunch of different sci-fi and movies in like a hat and just shook it around and then like pulled some out and put it together.
And several
Yeah.
really cardboard characters and some plot holes you could, drive a yacht through.
Oh, that main boss lady drove me crazy. Her character was so cliche.
Yeah.
And she's on this rig wearing a white, pristine button-up shirt, which everyone else is dressing for the weather and their work. And I just thought that was really, it's just a pet peeve of mine.
Only way it could
Yeah.
have been worse is if she was Wonder Woman and jumped down 100 feet and landed on her heels and didn't break them.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm the boss lady. I have to look like a boss lady with like this extreme hair pulled back, red lipstick, white blouse. It's like, no, you don't have to look like that to be a boss, especially a good boss. It was so annoying to me.
Isn't that one of the things they do in TV and movies, is that when they want to show a woman who's maybe wound too tightly or taking her job too seriously or whatever, they pull her hair back, I don't know. It just seems to be a
Yeah.
universal thing.
Wasn't there I feel like there was a South Korean movie, this could be as long as 10 years ago, about an oil rig. And there's basically a monster comes up and the sort of monster chasing them around on the oil rig. And it's a B movie, but it was, for what
Yeah.
it was very solid. I can't,
Right. I remember it. I can't remember it.
there's a woman riding a motorcycle around the rig. That's one of
Yeah.
the, one of the
That's
things.
cool.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was fun,
It's pretty neat.
If you
Mm,
think of
no.
the name, I'd check it out.
Watch
Yeah.
The Silent Sea. Just watch that instead. The Silent Sea is so good.
Really?
Speaking
I've
of,
never seen that.
yeah, I think it's a Korean series as well, and they're on the moon, and it still has some of
Oh,
those
that one, yeah.
tropes,
Oh yeah,
but
good.
it's really good, and the way it ends is good.
I like how
it's-
they because one of the problems you have with those movies is like the gravity issue,
Yeah.
and they solve that very quickly in the film. It's like, oh, we're gonna turn on the gravity now. They don't have to worry about the special effect for the rest of the film. The thing that going with things that were disappointing, 1899.
Ugh.
Well,
Never
it
even
was just-
started.
Nadia saved me on that one.
It was
So-
again. It sort of felt like they threw things into a hat, pulled things out, and maybe even the people who are plotting each episode didn't know where the story was going.
It's just the one from the creators of Lost.
No, dark.
No, but it felt
Oh,
like
dark.
it was written by the people who wrote Lost, but they didn't have writers.
All right,
It's
wait, I found the movie. It's Sector 7.
Sector.
It's a
Oh, okay.
2011 South Korean monster 3D and monster horror science fiction action film.
Oh,
But
got it.
nonetheless,
Yeah.
definitely worth a look.
All right, I just put
What year was it, John?
2011.
2011.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Oh
Yeah, did it end on a cliffhanger? 1899.
yes.
Because
Yeah,
it won't be a season
definitely.
two.
And there won't
that's
be a
just-
season two.
So not only did you plod through this terrible series, it won't even get resolved.
And the resolution makes no sense. Absolutely makes no sense.
Huh.
I mean, spoiler, it's a simulation.
Did you guys Did you guys listen to the Nadia's review of it? Me and
No.
her talked about it on
Uh-uh.
the for those of my panelists, if you guys aren't Patreons and you want to listen to anything I do, I mean, I'm happy to send it to you. So just let me know. I mean, John donates 150 a month, but I mean, if you guys want to not, that's fine. You know,
You
whatever.
do what you can.
Yeah,
You do what you can. I have another kidney.
And no, all kidding aside, I very much appreciate you guys. If you want to, so just let me know if there's anything like those that you want to listen to, deep background series or anything else. But I'm trying to find what she said about 1899 that was so funny.
Well, the problem is that the 1899 wasn't fun at all. It certainly wasn't funny.
No, what she said was funny.
I understand, but it just became plotting.
Did you watch the whole thing?
Oh yeah,
Why?
I thought there was going to be some big payoff at the end.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it would all make sense, like
He just watched Sharks of the Corn. He can watch anything. Come on.
I just kept watching it because it was kind of like one of those puzzle room games.
Yes.
And you wanted to see where it was going.
And where it went made no frigging sense whatsoever. It was a simulation inside a simulation inside a simulation. What was the frigging point?
It was.
They really didn't say, like, I mean, okay, don't listen if you're worried about spoilers, but
I'm not.
it's like, were they in a simulation because they were traveling through space and it was just to keep their brains busy, or was it something they were trying to resolve? It was very unclear. And that was
my first thought when I read about. I'm sorry, Bridget, I interrupted.
No, that's okay. I didn't totally hate it, but at the same point, I was like, I hope they explain this in the second season, which now they won't have. So
yeah, I mean, you're right, Georgie. It would have been nice to say, okay, so we put you in a simulation because we want you to A, not be bored, not go crazy, and B, maybe learn some skills.
Mission to Mars.
Right? But then, the simulation went wrong. Then the simulation went wrong. And then repeating it, trying to get you out of it. But then the subplot to that is this institute where they're torturing people.
Right, which made no sense.
That makes no sense.
No reason given?
No. It just.
It's just like they're writing by committee.
Yeah, by the people who created Lost.
You know what would be cool if there were some people getting tortured. Well, why are they getting tortured? We'll figure that out later, okay?
Did you guys ever see the movie Ghosts of War? It had a lot. It's got a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people from Titans are in it. Nightwing and Hawk, and it's kind of got not that severe, but it's just set in World War II, and these.
Oh
allied...
yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It's like
right.
You get to a certain point in the movie where something like 1899 happens. Like, why? It was fine the way it is. It's because I was just invested in that, and I'm like, wait, what just happened?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
I will say the making of documentary part was kind of cool. I didn't enjoy that because they made it with the same technology that they used for the Mandalorian with the like 360 screen or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of neat watching just how they made it. But it's like
here's what Nadia tweeted about it. I quoted this on the Patreon episode where she's doing movie reviews once a month or so for me for the Patreons. 1899 is so frustrating. Oh my God. Character. What is going on? Main character. I don't know. Character. You have to do this. Main character. Blank stare. Character. This is what's going on. Main character. Just stop it.
That sounds amazing.
Pretty spot on.
All right. So last night, yesterday, the Bronzo, this wasn't on your list. I found it myself.
Oh, what you got?
Yeah, what you watch?
The Mutations.
Oh, I just saw
Donald Pleasant and Tom Baker.
I saw it on Shudder, but I haven't seen the movie. How good is it?
It's actually not that bad.
Really?
And the fun thing is that I think it's chock block. First of all, okay, there's a whole bunch of it's about a freak show.
Okay.
That's one of the subplots. But there's a whole bunch of little people in it. And I think at least 3 of the little people later go on to make Time Bandits.
Oh, really?
So, it's got some names in it that you would recognize.
It's early 70s though, right? It's like 71 or 72.
Yeah. So
I
it's
feel,
Okay.
yeah, I feel duty bound to point out to DeBronzo and to Pete that there's a movie coming out in April called The Black Demon, starring Josh Lucas. When oilman Paul Sturgis takes his family to somewhere I can't pronounce, he unwittingly awakens the Black Demon, a massive black shark, hell-bent on protecting nature from human threats.
Oh no.
Time is
Wait,
of the
that's
essence
Godzilla.
in this killer shark figure.
Oh my gosh.
So
Uh,
Jaws with a shark is a hero.
Mhm.
It
Okay,
sounds like a
so-
Matt Carpenter special.
DeBronzo keeps bringing up Sharks of the Corn.
Yeah,
Yes, I watched it.
You did.
I did live Facebook about it.
I missed
Um,
it too.
I did
read
too.
it
Dang
I
it.
want you to know, DeBronzo, that I got my first ever warning from Facebook
For what?
about a post.
About what?
What?
Halfway through, I said, DeBronzo, I'm going to kill you for this.
Oh no.
And I got huge red flags.
Oh
All right.
Did somebody
But-
report it or was it the algorithm?
Oh, it was the algorithm.
Yeah.
Facebook police.
But here's the thing that I really want to go to is I actually looked up the name that they were using for their shark god.
Okay.
And it turns out that there's a whole, it comes from something. There is a world that this guy has built where this shark god is just one god, and it's a role-playing setting.
Hmm.
And I am afraid to go any further into this rabbit hole.
Oh, but you will. You will.
No, I won't.
Oh yeah,
You
he
wouldn't be
will.
bring-
He will.
you-
Yeah.
You wouldn't be
It's-
bringing it up if you weren't thinking about it.
Okay, so when are we playing Sharks of the Corn?
Yeah, come on. This is what Zoom was built for.
I kind of feel like we should do some kind of like improv theater, where it should just be like 10 minutes and a prompt, and we're all given characters, and then we just have to sort of improvise what we think Sharks of the Corn is like.
Oh, like a Christopher
Oh my
Guest
gosh.
thing.
Yeah,
Let's do
like
it.
some kind
Yeah,
of weird,
yeah.
yeah.
We
Maybe
do
we
a
should try
reading.
it out on the Patreons first and make them suffer,
Well, I
Here's
was-
what your $10 a month gets you.
Yeah.
And then do it, for the rest of humanity.
We
I-
make the fivers listen to that too.
Pete
You know.
did put it at the end. He goes, "This is worse than Llamageddon."
Yeah.
And I asked you how many, because every movie now I ask him how many llamas. 0 through 5. He goes 12. 12 llamas. And I almost want to watch it.
You were
It's-
you were weeping with joy, weren't you?
I was
Oh man, you have no idea.
Does 12 llamas mean it's worse because it has more
worse.
llamas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify for the listeners.
so
They deserve to
there's
know.
actually a plot to Llamageddon.
It's there.
I can't believe these
Loosely,
words
yeah.
are coming out of my mouth. That makes some sense. I mean,
I can't believe they are either.
alien llamas invading Earth with, that's fine. Okay, whatever. Sure, we've seen stupider things.
Brightburn with llamas.
Yeah, it's Brightburn with llamas. Sure. Now, the fact that one guy changes his outfit 12 times in 18 minutes, not a
I
big
think
deal.
It's
more
a
than that.
it's a styling choice, Pete. I don't let's not have any clothing shaming.
Let's be clear here. In Sharks of the Corn, the guy who we later find out is an FBI agent meets with the
I'm not
mob-
watching it now. Thanks a lot.
meets with the mafia guys
Oh man.
And one of the mafia guys is a girl who can't be more than 12 years old.
I start.
Okay. Somebody's daughter got to, or kid
Oh,
got to be in
yeah,
that
Can
film.
I be in the movie too?
Yeah.
This would be like Anne Rice. She could be a vampire.
There you go.
That would have
Interview with the Llamageddon.
Interview with a llama.
I was so impressed with your commentary. Like, I'm laughing my balls off. I was taking screenshots and just sending it to the group, and I'm just like, this is gold. It sounds like you're insane because it's all these disjointed ideas, like one after another.
That's
technology.
the best part.
What I would like to do is print these out, bring them to a writing class. All right, here are your prompts for this semester. Okay, I want a short story based on each of these.
I put it down as a quote because it was one of the stupidest things I saw in the film, heard in the film. And then Mike starts tagging me with it. Technology makes me hard.
I laughed so hard when I saw that.
I'm so sorry, Bridget.
They're flying a drone over the cornfield, and there are sharks swimming in the cornfield back and forth, but it's like graphics for Frogger.
Oh, just so good.
What the fuck am I watching?
Pete, I am happy that I've expanded your horizons in life by doing this to you, because we're just here just talking about all this culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Culture.
laughter is the best medicine.
I have to
yeah.
say, like, with the Pete diatribes on Facebook, so I've gotten to experience this from several different perspectives. One where I've never seen the movie and I'm just reading the comments and I'm imagining the movie from the comments. Secondly, from movies I've actually seen that I know where you are in the movie as you're commenting, which is enjoyable in itself in a different way.
Oh, he's gotten to that part.
Yes, which is hilarious. And then I've also been like, oh, great. When the rare time I catch it, when you're like, I'm starting the movie now. And then DeBronzo and I start it with you. And I watch what you say as we're all watching it together. And that is hilarious too.
All right.
It is
So one of the
amazing.
things you should know is that sometimes I see something or I hear something and I want to comment on it. And I'm like, I didn't just see what I saw. So I have to rewind it and watch it again because it's not possible that I saw what I saw. And yet
Oh, it's always possible.
it always is possible.
It's always possible.
I'm
sorry, go ahead, Pete.
I was watching some film, and it's a old film that I've loved, for years. I'm not going to mention what it is, but I watched it again for the first time, and there's this one scene.
Love story.
There's this one scene where they're digging through a trash pile, and
As you do.
and looking for evidence. And one of the shots is from within the trash pile at the characters, so the cameraman is buried someplace, which is fine, right? But then I'm watching it and I'm realizing that the other angle, the other camera has caught the cameraman who's in the trash pile moving back and forth. You can see the camera coming back and forth. It's like they didn't even bother to shoot this scene twice. They shot it, and just, nobody's going to notice the camera guy in the trash.
It was a choice. It was a choice.
gosh.
They were trying to go meta, and they
Hey.
were just like, let's just do that. Let's include the cameraman.
Pete, are you a filmmaker? Huh?
You
And
know
I
what?
don't think you need to make
I
me-
have made a film. I have made a film.
Let's not talk about that here, Pete.
Yeah.
Can
You said
I
I could
just
be anything. more.
Swearing
I'm
aside,
the
this is a
fullest
family.
time.
Can I mention a couple of good things?
I guess
Verbal
we
screaming.
have to be positive. Shit.
On YouTube, there is an adaptation of Count Magnus by M.R. James.
Oh,
And you
nice.
just type in Count Magnus. That's MAGNUS 2022.
So that is also available on Acorn, and it's written by Mattis.
Yeah, you did an excellent job of adapting it.
Yes, yeah. In fact, it had been a while since I read it, and I had not realized how proto-Lovecraftian that is.
Yeah. Bob Price used to always mention that he felt that was an influence on Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
See, if you look at it, if Cthulhu's tomb in Ray
Right.
corresponded to his tomb in Sweden.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a film, you said?
Yeah.
It's a half-hour adaptation.
Yeah, it's actually, I sent the link in the chat. It's the
Oh,
first thing.
thank you. Appreciate it.
But just you can find it easily on YouTube. If you just type in Count Magnus, you'll get some
2022. It comes right
Right.
up.
dramas as well. But it's the one from 2022.
This says Ghost Stories for Christmas, Count Magnus, HD.
Yep. That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Really good. Really good.
Also, while we're on the subject of movies on YouTube, and I would never do this
Yes,
if I hadn't bought the DVD and if it was available streaming. But for those who don't have a DVD player or Blu-ray, and they do exist because streaming's so prevalent. Last time I looked, like a week or two ago, Kolchak, The Night Stalker, and Kolchak, the Night. What was the second movie? Right?
Night Strangler.
Strangler. Though both of those films are on YouTube.
Oh, nice.
So, and that said, I posted a link on the big Facebook page to Cadabra Records. They've done some really great stuff with Lovecraft stories on LPs and everything. And somebody posted in the comments a YouTube link where he had essentially played the whole thing on YouTube so that people could listen to it for free. That kind of thing really upsets me. But there is a big difference if you've got no other way to watch it, I think. You know, it's a gray area, but yeah, check out Cadabra Records. I'll be posting about them this week on the big Facebook page and probably in the group as well. But their LPs, they Shadow Out of Time, they're doing some really marvelous stuff. So,
I've got another
yes,
streaming choice. The Pale Blue Eye was Christian Bale.
That's a Edgar Allan Poe.
Netflix is in horror, supernatural horror was in an occult mystery with Edgar Allan Poe. He's played by a young actor. Christian Bale plays a detective who's investigating a series of weird happenings at West Point.
it's good. It's on Netflix, right?
It's really
Right.
good.
Yeah.
Okay. Here is the Picture in the House
Ooh.
LP from Cadabra Records.
That's a cool
Andrew
cover.
Lehman score, read by Andrew Lehman with the score by Fabio Frizzi. Bridget.
Nice.
And then
Frizzi.
they also sent me the Shadow Out of Time, the LPs for that. So I'm really looking forward to that. So Cadabra, if you're listening, thank you, and I'll tell as many people about you as I can, because this is great stuff. So anything else, guys?
Yeah, I got the audio drama from the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, The Black Stone.
Oh, how was it?
It was excellent. They did something interesting. They made the narrator one of the recurring characters that they invented straight only for radio.
Yeah, I think it's a Brotherhood of the Beast.
Tower. is a millionaire in several dramas. He was in the Whisper in the Darkness film.
Hmm.
And he becomes the narrator to the Black Stone.
That's cool. I remember in their version of the Shadow Out of Time, the audio drama, not the reading, there was a doctor on the ship that basically has a conversation with Peasley, right? But it works better that way for audio.
Yeah.
So anyway,
They had to invent a few characters.
I'm sorry?
And they had to invent a few characters.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
just one last thing, we'll plug Will Murray.
Sure.
Wild Adventures of Cthulhu, Volume 2.
All right.
So wait, let me talk about that.
All right.
Because I have Wild Adventures Volume 1.
Okay.
So I love every story in Volume 1. The problem I have is that I have all these stories in Volume 1 in other books.
He has a couple of new stories in Volume 2.
Volume 2 has 2 new stories. So, if you have limited mythos bucks, Volume 2 is probably your better way to go.
That's good information. Thank you, Pete.
So, but yes, I am torn between keeping this or getting rid of it, because I don't have limited mythos bucks. I have limited shelf space.
Also, I think there's probably a great many people out there who don't have many of the stories that are in Volume 1,
Right.
and that are collected in various anthologies.
And there's also the issue of, if you have Volume 1, you have all of Will Murray's stories, some of which are interconnected in one place.
Right. And so, yeah, that's, that's the thing I'm debating back and forth is like, do you keep both books? Because it's a quick reference book. But yeah, I mean, everything here is from Tales from Miskatonic University Library, Black Wings of Cthulhu 4, Beyond the Mountains of Madness, Dead But Dreaming 2, Cthulhu's Reign, Disciples of Cthulhu 2, Miskatonic University, Cthulhu Cycle, and the Shub-Niggurath Cycle. So if you're a hardcore mythos collector, you probably have all those volumes. But I might keep this just because it's a quick reference, because I use all my books as references.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Well,
In
like
this
Rick
way-
said, it's all in one place.
As you get older, you're going to forget where all these things are in the collection.
yep.
Like
Oh,
Henry, I
not
used to have,
anymore. I'm not, because my kids, I paid my kids to use Bookshelf, and they went through my entire library and scanned every single book. and
Oh,
put it
nice.
into a
Oh,
database.
wow.
What was the count? How many books do you own?
Well, when I say they did this, they only did the stuff on one shelf.
Oh, okay.
Now, you
But
know they're
yeah,
going out of business, right?
my kids,
No, the bookshelf company.
the Bookshelf company.
Yeah, the bookshelf app thing that you
Fuck me.
Scan quickly.
I'm kidding, Pete.
So the one set of shelves was 800 books.
I'm kidding.
Wow.
Jesus.
They're they
Can't
did
believe
that
you
over
believed
Christmas.
me.
Yes, because stranger shit has happened.
That's true.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, somebody bought Twitter for 400. What,
Yeah.
44 billion and
Oh,
immediately did everything they could
and
to
has lost
devalue
$2
it.
billion in the process.
So yeah. Okay. Next week, Curtis M. Lawson and Joshua Rex will be here to talk about their book, published by Weird House, The Coffin Makers Book of Dark Tales.
Yes.
So, and it's illustrated.
Very cool.
We'll look forward to that next week. John, Bridget, Pete, Rick, DeBronzo, Matt's gone, but thanks for being here, guys.
Yeah.
And appreciate
Thanks
all
for
your
having us.
support, really.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.